jewelry making friends. My name is Joey Balistreri. Welcome to my work table. I am back with my second project from this month's Potomac Beads Treasure Box edition, which was called Spun Sugar Serenade. And the colors in this month's box were just delightful. They was sort of reminiscent of a carnival in pastels and like cotton candy and candies and sweets, and I absolutely love it. If you've been on my channel at all, you know that this is right up my alley. So my first project that I did with this box is this gorgeous mixed media kind of boho chic bracelet that I did one of my own handmade hooks on it, and I did my go-to beaded chain, which I love to do, added into a bracelet bar that I had in my stash, and one of the beautiful Athena cast butterflies that came in this month's box. And then I shifted into waxed cording and knotting for this side of the bracelet, and added some little dangles with knots on the end. Have this little extender chain with a little drop at the end, so this bracelet is fully adjustable. It is so comfortable and so lightweight, and I absolutely love it. I can link this video below if you haven't seen this one yet. I also unboxed this month's box. You can have a look at the full things, all of the things that came in the box. But I did want to show you, for those of you who saw the other video, I did want you to have a good look at the butterfly, and I'm going to show you the second one that was in the box, and see if you can compare. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I was finished filming, I took my favorite coating, which is from Potomac Beads. It's called Permalac Clear, and I brushed that over all of my metals, especially these little base metal findings. And these were left over from something that I had in my stash. They're beautiful little flowers, but to keep them shiny silver and not have tarnish quickly, I always take a moment after I'm finished making a piece, usually when I've stopped filming, and I just brush this over all the metal. And in this case, I had hammered and textured this little hook clasp that I made. So I even brushed this coating over that, and you cannot see it. It dries totally clear. It does not alter the look of anything. That's why I wanted to show you the difference in the two butterflies, because there is literally no difference. You do not see that this is on there, but it really adds quality and longevity to a piece that you've made. And I highly recommend it. I have used like nail lacquer for this. I used to take all of my pieces out into my garage on newspaper and spray them with a clear Krylon and wait for that to dry and then flip everything over and give it another spray. But when I discovered this on the Potomac Beads website, it just works so much better. It takes a couple of minutes after I'm finished creating a piece, and then I've added some quality and longevity. And I don't know if you can see, but it's really thin, so it dries very quickly, and it's not difficult to get a nice smooth coat, which sometimes if I've used nail lacquer, I would struggle with that because it's a bit thick. So I'm going to link this below in case any of you are interested, but I wanted to kind of share this bracelet with you because I've been wearing it and I just love it. And I did take the time after I was finished filming to coat all of my metal findings, so I'll have it for a long time. So today's project is going to be using one of the button beads that came in the box, and let me see, they're both a little bit different. I'm going to choose the one that's a little bit more pink. I'm going to use the second Athena cast butterfly that came in this box. Oh my gosh, I am so in love with this. I wish you had feel-o-vision, because if you could feel how lovely this is, like there's just the perfect amount of weight. I mean, this is just absolutely a beautiful, beautiful charm. So what I'm going to do is hang that little butterfly as a drop on a necklace. And I just want to talk to you briefly. So in the box, we got these beautiful, in fact, I still have my sample. We got these beautiful, they actually have 4 holes, little pink, I think they're white, white Vega Luster, I think was the name, but it's a really cool bead, and I absolutely love the color. This was my little test strand to see how the beads string and how big the holes were. And I just loved this bead with everything. But I had my heart set on doing another knotted necklace on waxed cording, and the holes just do not fit over waxed linen cord. They're just too small. So I wanted to keep with the colors that were curated in this box. So I went into my stash and pulled out some crystals and some pink check glass and some little purple check glass discs, and just some things that I had in my stash that kept the colors of this month's box going. And I have the beautiful seed beads out here that came in the box. And I also went into my stash and pulled out some silver seed beads that I may use for spacers as I get going. I had another little scrap of this stainless steel paper clip chain, and I think I'm going to do an extender on my necklace the same way that I did on my bracelet, so I have a coordinating piece. And these were just leftovers from the last project. So we also got in this month's box this beautiful acrylic flower bead mix, and these are so unusual. I don't have any acrylic flowers in my stash like this. It's really cool because the little drill hole goes from side to side across the back, and I have these out here because two reasons. I was thinking about adding them into my necklace when it's all finished, and then I had some little, coincidentally, I've had these for years, these little acrylic tube beads in my stash, and they were just absolutely perfect with the candy colors that were in the box. So if I don't use them in this project, there may be a third project coming. I'm thinking bracelet. So I just had them out here because when I'm doing a knotting and stringing project, I tend to design in my head and kind of look at all the pieces, and like my ideas unfold as I have that quiet time to do the knotting and stringing. So I'm going to start with some waxed Brazilian cord. Now, if you do get the treasure box, last month's box, we were given 3 colors of a waxed linen cord, and you could use that as well. I did a bracelet with that last month, and it's really fabulous. I just have this in my stash, and I'm going to use this, but the one we received from Potomac Beads works really well. So if you like this project and that's what you have, then by all means use that. Now, as far as length, I love long necklaces, so this is a ridiculous amount of cord, and the way that I decide on my length for a knotted necklace or bracelet is put it around me and see the length that I want, and then I will either triple or even quadruple that length, because knotting takes up a lot of space. It eats up a lot of cord, and when I'm doing a long necklace and I have beads to create a pattern with, I don't have any way of knowing how much knotting I'll be doing. So I give myself extra. I don't worry about waste because the small bits can make bracelets or little tassel earrings and things like that. So I don't worry. And so I'm not going to give you a measurement because I didn't measure. I just put it around my neck, said here's about where I want my necklace to land, and then I tripled that. So that's what I'm going to do here. And I am going to start by just twisting and pinching, and the wax kind of activates against the cord and makes like a little needle for threading. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I was going to string my butterfly right on this cord, but I think I am going to use a jump ring. I have made some little jump rings right here. They were left over from my last project, and the reason that I'm doing that is just in case anything goes wrong with a knotted necklace. I definitely don't want to have to cut anything away or lose all of that knotting. So I am going to add a little jump ring so that if at any point I need to make changes, or you know, I'm notorious for updating a piece like even years after I've made it, changing a clasp or changing a drop. So that little jump ring gives me the opportunity to do that. And what I'm going to do is, I'll have to pull out of camera, but just pull my little butterfly charm, because he's going to be the very bottom of my necklace, the little drop. And so I'm going to just have to pull out of the camera because of this ridiculous amount of waxed cord that I have here. And I'm going to get him right about in the center. So forgive me for disappearing for a moment. He is in the middle, and that is where I'm going to make my first knot. And these are just overhand knots. And you do not need a tool for knotting waxed linen cord. You really don't. And on this first one, since I just want like a loose little dangle there, I'm not going to use a tool either, but I really love my knotting tweezers. They just make it so easy for me to get my knots exactly where I want them, to get them tight, and I just really love my knotting tweezer. So for those of you who are not familiar, it looks like this. It's a really long, skinny, very precision tip, and I'll show you how to use those. As I said, with waxed cord, the knots are so easy to do, and they lock in place because the wax kind of grabs and, you know, makes the knot really secure. So I think you would really not need them, but I like them. So I'll show you both ways. And then I'm going to get my little button on here by separating these cords, and one end is going to go through the front hole of this button and then come back up the back hole of the button. So like that, and then I have to just feed it down to right above my butterfly. So once this is about where I want it, I am going to take my other piece of cord and go behind the button and get it nice and straight, get it where I want it. So it is going to look like that. And I'm going to put my next overhand knot right at the top of the button. Okay, and this is where on a thing like this, where I really do love my knotting tweezer. Again, I'm sorry about the pulling out of the camera, but this is a lot of cord to start off with. When you start making knots, it does eat up the cord. So this is where I really love my knotting tweezer, because I need a precise knot right above this button in order to hold this little focal in place, so I can reach inside the loop that I just made and get both of those cords in the knotting tweezer, and then I can pull, and that where my tweezer is where that knot will be, with no unwanted space. It pulls the knot right down to the tweezer. Then I can just remove the tweezer and then even use the tweezer instead of my fingernails to tighten that knot down in place. And it gets the knot exactly where you want it without any unwanted space. And that is really important on, you know, this beginning on this button, because I want it to stay just like that. So I have my little drop already created on my design. And now I'm going to separate my strands and create a pattern and kind of work my way up. I'm going to start with the left side, so I'm going to get this left hand cord and get my end and make my little needle and start with a little pattern. So from the box, I'm loving this little crystal bead mix, and as I said, the color of these little 4-hole beads was just beautiful and so lovely with the button, but they just won't fit. So these little check glass beads are just from my stash, and they have plenty of things like this on the Potomac Beads website if you are interested in adding something like that to your stash. And you know, I recommend the treasure box if you just like a little sampling of quality check glass and crystals and findings, and it is a really wonderful box. But if you are not into a monthly box, you can still shop their website, and it is a fabulous, fabulous resource for jewelry people. They just have everything. If you click on crystals, you can see every shape and color of crystals. If the Potomac pearls are breathtaking, and you have every millimeter and so many colors to choose from. And they have a section for tools, and they have the Athena cast line. It is just really, really a beautiful website, and I love it. Let me get some silver out here. Let me put a few little silver seed beads out here and just see how they look. So this is, I did not sit and work out my pattern ahead of filming. So, you know, a little bit of design on the fly, but pattern play is one of the most wonderful things about jewelry design. It is so much fun to play with the colors and shapes of the beads and, you know, kind of stack them with each other. So look at that. That little pop of silver just looks great. And I think I'm going to just make a little section like that and add in one of these beautiful little crystals that came from the box. So what is prettier than pink beads, crystal beads, and shiny silver beads in a little grouping? So, and I love the crystal on this because you can see the creamy cord right through it. I'm going to put a pink one on my other side, and let me see how that looks, and then I'll tie a little knot. I love it. Okay, I'm just going to do another one of my overhand knots. And for those of you who are not familiar with knotting, you know, there's different techniques. You can do it so that your beads like float up and down on the cord, or you can be very precise with a knotting tweezer and get it so that there's no space in between the beads and that all you see is the knot, and that acts as your spacer in between your bead segments. So it's really what you like the look of. It's really what you prefer. So I just think that is beautiful. That is just a beautiful little drop. So now I actually will go back and separate my strands and start creating a pattern. So, and then all my beads will be going on a single strand on the left side and a single strand on the right side. And I just need to create a little pattern here. And I had not really decided if I was going to do peach in with the pink. I think I will add in the purple. Honestly, I have not decided. I also put some of these flower spacers out here. And so I'm just going to pause the camera and start creating a pattern and knotting in between the pattern that I decide on. And when I've gotten going and gotten to use up a little bit of this cord, I'll come back and show you where I'm at, and we'll keep working together. I'm deciding on my pattern and my color scheme. So my options are to keep this like pink and silver and cream. This little disc spacer is a very soft purple because that's what came in the box. But my dilemma is that I only have 2 of the purple beads left after I did my bracelet. But from my stash, I do have these little check glass beads, which are a really great match for the color palette. And then I have to decide, since I only had on my strand of crystals, I only had 3 peach. So for such a long necklace, that does not give me a lot of peach. So I have to decide if, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. I just sort of cut everything open and lay it here on my mat so I can decide if I want to stay with the sort of purest colors for me of pink and silver and cream, or if I want to add in the green and the peach. I had quite a few of these beautiful elongated bicone beads, and I really love those. And green, when you add green into a design, it's very fresh and pretty. So that's what I'm kind of working out. If I separate my strands and start to look at what's going to happen on both sides, you know, I'm just trying to decide how I want this piece to look. And before I get started with my stringing, my knotting, and my patterning, if that's a word, I just wanted to show you, these are not labeled, and I had them in my supplies, but if you've been on my channel at all, you know how much I believe in the power of seed beads. These are little square cylinder kind of seed beads with a mirror effect because they're lined with silver. And you know, like the Potomac treasure box, pretty much every month they try to give us some seed beads to work with. They are a workhorse, very powerful in design. So, you know, like there's the little silver ones that I've already added in, and then look at that little, I believe this is an 8/0 seed bead, I'm sorry, a 6/0 seed bead, and it is not labeled. So, but that's the other thing, if you go onto the Potomac website and go in the seed bead category, it is shocking, stunning what is available. So I just pulled those from my stash just to add some elements to my design, and I just have decisions to make, really design decisions about how I'm going to do it. Is it going to be random? Am I going to keep repeating? So I am just thinking that through, and I'm going to pause and just kind of look at this for a bit and think about it and decide if I'm going to use the 3 peach beads that I had left on my strand, and if I'm going to use my own little check glass purple to keep the colors of the box going, and do I want to use these? These are so beautiful. They're called tea rose, but they are, you know, truly peach. So I have decisions to make. So I'm going to pause and think this through and get going on my pattern, and I'll be right back. I am checking in. I have to say I'm really, really happy with the way this is turning out. Let me put this knot in and I'll show you what I settled on in color and in pattern. So in the end, I did decide to add in the peach and the lavender, and I decided on a little bit of color blocking. So at the base is what we started with, and then I started with a little mix of the beads that are going to be in the piece, but I decided to do some color blocking so that it would have more of a statement and not be so busy. So on the second strand, I just did a little section, a block of those green elongated bicone beads. And then this is a case in point. When I say how powerful seed beads are, look at what those little tea rose seed beads did when used as a spacer in between disc beads. That is absolutely stunning, and it completely changed the look. And then when I came onto this side, I decided to do more color blocking, and I just had these check glass faceted beads in my stash, and what I loved about them is they have kind of, the wash on them is kind of the pink and the peach that's appearing in this piece. So again, I just substituted what I had to keep the color palette that was curated in this box because it was really beautiful, and I really wanted to do a waxed cord knotted design, and the pinks that were in the box would not go through my cord. But this goes beautifully through the 7-strand beading material that's in the box. So if you wanted to change your stringing material and do a similar look, I think you could. But this is what I'm still working on this side, but I just wanted to check in and show you that after I finished this little block of the disc beads separated by the little tea rose spacer, or not spacer beads, seed beads that came in the box, I just resumed with the little elements, just a little section of kind of random silvers, pinks, purples, greens, peaches, and you know, just to get up, and I'm pretty sure this is where I'm going to end. So I just have to finish stringing this other side, and deciding what I need to do. Also, I did just one little flower here as a transition, just to break up my pattern. And from my years of interior design, I tend to see things in odd numbers a little bit better when you're doing flower arranging. You do, 3, 5, 7, 9, that kind of thing. And when I was decorating bookshelves or plant ledges, there would be, odd numbers, like a tall, medium, and low item. And so when I'm doing pattern play like this, I tend to apply those design elements to my patterns. But this is quite long, and as always, I'll get some better pictures up at the end, but I just wanted to check in, show you where I'm going with my pattern. And I have to say again, a knotted necklace, this length, I've been working for about 35-40 minutes on the paws, and I have all of this done, so it's very relaxing. It comes together so quickly, and once you get a little direction in your pattern, it just like unfolds before your eyes, and it is so much fun. So I've been using also this little pink clear crystal mix that came in the box, and what you see here on my mat, I picked out the ones that had the most pink in the color, just because I'm using cream colored linen cord or waxed cord, so it would make the more clear ones sort of disappear. So I'm just kind of doing that. I'm going to finish with this pattern, and when I come back, I'm going to use this extender chain. I took out a ball head pin and just took some of the elements from my design here to make a dangle for the end of this chain. And I am going to do another one of my handmade hooks for the clasp on this with some 20 gauge wire. So when I'm finished stringing, I'll come back and we'll do a hook together and finish the back of this necklace. I have reached the length that I am happy with and finished all my stringing and knotting, and this piece is just so beautiful. It's not heavy, but I love the malleability of stringing and knotting on waxed cord, and I absolutely love the idea of a little bit of color blocking, or kind of pattern blocking, if you will. And how amazing is the little dot of color that the seed beads provide. Like a little dot of silver here, a little dot of that peachy tea rose. I'm just thrilled with it. So I am at the point of adding on my clasp, and I will first go ahead and wire wrap this little charm that I made for the end of the chain here. And I just had 5 lengths of this paperclip chain left over, and it's just going to give nice adjustability to my piece. So I'm not going to trim any of that away. I'm just going to wire wrap a little loop, and before I close it, add it right in, just like I did the same thing on this bracelet, where I added a little bit of a charm on the end, and I really like it. And I wear my hair up a lot in the spring and summer because Florida's hot, and so that is a pretty little detail, like hanging down the back of a necklace. I'm really excited about it. So just put a few wraps in there, and this will be ready to get tied right on to the end of one side. Very pretty. I love that little dangle. Very pretty. Okay, so I'm just going to come to one side of my, it doesn't really matter which side. I do want this knot to be really close to my chain, so this is where knotting tweezers are really great. I want to make sure I don't have unwanted space. So let me just reach through that loop, grab my other knot, and just pull that right there. And I will put a little bit of glue, a little GS Hypo Cement on this. The waxed cord is great. It grabs on to itself, but I want to make sure that with gravity pulling on it and pulling the little clasp in and out does not loosen my knot. And a lot of times I will cut this the way that I did on my bracelet and make a little like boho dangle and kind of fray the ends, but I don't think I'm going to do that on the back of this, just because I kind of want it kind of clean and I have this pretty little dangle. So let me cut this away, and I will put a little bit of GS Hypo cement on that, and that can be sitting up while we make our clasp. So just a tiny little dot. Sometimes I use my thread zap on this as well, but because my cord is cream colored, I decided not to do that because it does burn it. It does make like a little dark spot, and because I used cream colored cord, I decided to use glue this time. And so what I have here is a little scrap of 20 gauge wire, and you can also use 18 gauge if you want. That is a little bit hard on my hand, and I've never found a problem with the 20 gauge because once I hammer and texture it, it is quite work hardened. And I'm just going to start by making a little curl. I don't like the way that end is. I want a nice blunt cut end. So with the flush side of my cutters, I'm just going to clean that up. And I'm just going to make a really tight spiral to start out with. And then I want to get a little bit of a looser spiral because I need a little spot for my jump ring to add on to the back of the necklace. Now when you hammer, you change the structure of the wire, the molecules in it, and it will spread out and, you know, change a little bit, and that's okay for me. After I get that done, I will have a look and see if I can go in with my pliers and make a little bit more space. But I really do like these to be flat. I just like the hammered look on here. So I think I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to come back with my round nose pliers and just I'm going to kind of start it off with my fingers, just warm and kind of curve it. And I'm just going to come in and grab that with my round nose pliers kind of down near the fattest part of the barrel and just bring that around. And just make a very dramatic, just a very, very dramatic hook. And as you can see, it does not take much wire. This was probably about 5 inches of wire, and I have most of it left. These little hooks do not take much wire. So I can trim this away, and I left myself a little bit extra there because I want to actually grab my Xuron pliers that are for crimping because of I love that tiny little tip because I just want a little loop or a little decorative bend in the tip of this hook, and that is so nice and small. It just gives me the tiniest little bend there. And since it's a necklace and not a bracelet, it can be a little bit fancy. It's going to be on the back of the neck. But there's the little hook, and I am going to make a little space here and get my bench block in. Let me move some of my tools and put my bench block here. Make sure that I'm not hammering my beautiful beads. And I'm going to just flatten this and on both sides and texture it. And I am going to use, let's see, I generally like my ball peen hammer for such a small, you know, it's a very, very small clasp. So this side will flatten, and you might want to pause or mute if the pounding is going to bother you, but it really doesn't take much, especially on this 20 gauge wire. And I just do little sections at a time, being careful not to get my fingers. If you're nervous about that, you can even use a pair of pliers to help you, and you know, like get a hold of it and do it that way. Just hold it with the pliers. And I'm definitely going to do both sides. It really doesn't take a lot, and it had so much, like this looks like so much more than just a little piece of wire when you get finished. And a little section here that doesn't have much texture. And so that really work hardens this, and I'm just going to like pull this a little, you know, from this point, when you've finished hammering, you've flattened, you've textured, at this point you can hand sculpt your little hook or use your pliers, you know, get the shape. You will have to kind of reshape it a little bit, and you just need to look for a space here where you can add your jump rings. So whether you make that, you know, by pulling your spiral open a little bit, just whatever looks good. I tend to fuss with things a little bit. I love to play with it and get it just so, but you do need to make sure, I don't know if you can see the space that's there, you do need to make sure that your space is closed up and there's, you know, no way that your jump ring can slip out of your little hook. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think that is really pretty. I'm going to do one more thing. Just want to put my plier in here and just change this a little bit. When I hammered it, I lost my little hook a little bit. I love that. I think it's so pretty. And now this can, before I tie it on, let me just make sure that it fits in my chain. And it does. Very pretty. I love it. Okay. Yeah, you just want to check with whatever chain you're using for your extender chain that you didn't create a loop or something that's so big or, you know, in a shape that won't fit into your chain, because then you can't clasp your necklace. And you could actually tie this right on, but you could tie it right on, but I do tend to do jump rings for things like that, just in case I ever need to change a clasp. You know, I don't lose all my knotting and all my work there. So I think I'm going to add a jump ring here. Pretty. I have my little jump ring in that little space, and now I'm just going to run that through and do the same thing on this end that I did, where is just tie the chain. I mean, where I tied the chain on the other end, I'm going to do the same thing. Just tie this right here. And, you know, again, the jump ring is there. So if I ever have this, like, is not working for me, or, you know, sometimes I'll get in a shipment of beads or findings where I just love a clasp or something, or I just want to update a piece, and with the jump ring it gives me the possibility to change that if I want to. And I'm going to do a second little knot here and do the same thing, a little dot of GS Hypo Cement. And I have to say, this was a very enjoyable, very quick, once I decided on my pattern and started knotting and stringing, it was really quick and really fun. And again, I think I'm going to cut this off and put a little glue, but if you wanted to do this look with the little sort of boho tassels and beads and have that also at the back of the neck, you could, but I think on mine, I think I'm just going to keep it clean. And that is this beautiful product from Potomac Beads called Permalac Clear. This is an anti-tarnish protective coating, and I am going to brush it on my butterfly just the same way that I did. I'm going to brush it on everything on this piece. So I'll just show you how easy it is. This is just a little scrap of plastic. I just want to protect my work surface, and I'm going to do these little flower spacers because they're just fashion metal, fashion jewelry base metal. But it is just as easy as polishing your nails, and it dries completely clear. You cannot see it. It's very thin, so it doesn't take very long to dry. And, you know, it just adds a long life to your pieces. And then I'm going to just flip it over and do the back side as well. Put this over here so I don't spill it on my mat. It only takes a few minutes to do this, and it's super easy. And so if I keep this, which I think I am, I really love the way it turned out. I love the candy colors. I love how soft and movable it is. And it's just a beautiful piece. My style. Just love it. So it is that simple. And then I'm going to just kind of let this lay here and dry. And I even brushed this over my little hook that I made on my bracelet when I finished making this piece yesterday. And it's dry and you cannot even tell. It doesn't alter the look of the metal or anything, but it certainly adds a lot of life and, just like I said, quality to what I've made. If I zoom in a little bit. But I even take my brush and go like in between wherever tarnish or like sunscreen or lotion that's on our hands, wherever that might, just get a little thin coating on the edge of my spacer beads. And you know, it's nice and thin, so it's really easy to work with. I will link this below as well if any of you are interested in doing this. It's really great if you sell your jewelry or even if you make it as gifts, especially if you spent time like knotting something or weaving something, you know, to not have to worry about it tarnishing. And it is that simple. A few minutes at the end of my work, and I'm going to let this dry for a minute, take some pictures, and put them up at the end of the video. And thank you, Potomac Beads, for another box full of beautiful inspiration. And if you all have not sent me pictures of your little furry helpers that are around your work tables, I would really love to have those. I'll put my email in the description box below. And I thank you for choosing my video today. I hope everyone is safe and well and having fun on your beading mats. Ciao, jewelry making friends.